I've had some people ask me how I build my cages for my quail, and I just wanted to show you my setup. First of all, I've got this little inset in my house, which makes it perfect to keep the wind off of all these cages. That's my kitchen windows right there. This is a door right here that we don't use, and another door on that end that we don't use. So it works perfectly for the bird cages. And before I show you all my cages, I want to show you first here under the table. That's not a quail, that's my duck, and she lives down by the pond, but I was so happy when she came up to the top of where the house is to lay her eggs and sit on her nest. I'm very happy about that because I think it's a lot safer than for her to have a nest down near the pond. This is my very first cage right here. This cage I bought, I think it was around $140 on Amazon, and it was listed as I want to say a habitat for tortoises, like turtles. And I like this cage. When I first got it, I had only 5 birds in here, and I had it out on the grass. And I think I got it in the month of August, maybe September. But for all the weeks that I had it out there, my birds didn't lay any eggs at all. And they seemed to like the grass, but I think they didn't feel safe. And once the weather started to get cooler, I decided I should bring them off the grass and over here. And so my husband built this little table for me, very basic table, and I put a tarp under it, or on top of the table. So let me show you the cage on top. It doesn't have a top, and so I think that the birds were feeling, and they were out there day and night. I think that they felt like maybe they could not hide well enough from predators. But I do like this cage. This is the way it opens. I can open it like this. My quail jump if I leave it open like this. But anyway, it's easy for me to get in there and clean. This goes all the way down like this. And then on the other side, the handle did get broke. On the other side, it's got this right here that opens up. I do have a broody female that's very rare, and she's sitting on eggs, silly girl. I broke the handle off of that, but that's okay. It still works. This cage does not have a bottom to it. So that's why it worked perfectly when it was on the grass, so that they could, enjoy taking a dust bath or picking through the grass and that sort of thing. Let me see if I can lift it a little bit. There, see? You put picking at my fingers. But see, it doesn't have a bottom. So the bottom is the table, and I put a tarp on the table. And then all of that in there is just some, there were shavings and sand and different stuff like that. I like that I can put their food on the outside, and I could probably jerry-rig something to put their water on the outside too. I just don't. All in all, I have, I don't know, something like 34 birds in this cage. This was my first cage. All right. This right here, it was my second cage. This is, let me step back just a little bit. It looks like it's a table, but it's not. Those legs are the cage legs. All right. And what I like about this cage is that it's got a rollout here. Let me open it up and I can show you. So their excrement goes down below, goes through the hard wire, and but this right here, when they lay their eggs, it's at a very tiny little bit of a slant, so the eggs roll all the way right to here. Now I got this cage, I didn't build any of my cages. I got this cage from Dale's Quails. I think probably the thing that I hate the most is the way that I've got the water set up, and I need to just spend some time and attach the water that came with it appropriately, because this water, because of the slant, it spills all the time. But it also came with this feeder, excuse me, so I can actually feed from the outside of the cage. It's very handy. This cage was around $150. It did not come, and it came with all the parts, and we had to assemble it a little bit. It did not come with this tray right here. I got this tray for about $12 or $13 at AutoZone, and once a week I empty that and clean it for the birds. So the next cage that I've got is this one. Now this is, oh, and let me go back to this one. Dale's Quails, you can find them on YouTube. You can do a search for them on the internet and find their website address. I'm sure that on YouTube they'll have their internet address listed, their website, and you could also find them on Facebook. And I do like this cage, I currently only have 4 birds in here, but I've had as many as 8 in here, and they fit just fine in this cage. It's just that little by little, the cage door got left open, and I lost a couple of birds. So this is the next cage, and these are actually all my babies, and I've got 42 minus 6, because I took 6 males out, so that is what, 36. I got 36 birds in here, and this cage also did not have a bottom, and for a long time I had this cage worked very similar to this one. But recently, within the last month or so, I added the hardwire, whatever you call it, you know what it is. I added that and then lifted it up. This is an old pallet that we cut up, and I set the cage on top of here. And the reason is because their eggs were just far too dirty, and I hated the way they were just filthy. It was very difficult to clean. I've been putting my feeders on the outside of the cage, which helps to keep them from being so messy. If you see, a lot of this food right here has been dropped, and that was before I added this top, because they were being very, very messy with their food. But I like the food on the outside of the cage because it gives them more space on the inside of the cage. I'm going to go ahead and step up on here, and I'm just going to show you. This is really more of a homemade cage, and where I got it from was from an old chicken house that was already on the property when I got here. But it looks like it's been made from, I want to say, like shelving unit, like a shelving unit, because it's very much jerry-rigged, not professional or anything. It's here's how it opens. It's nothing fancy, but it works. And they've got it, attached with little, that's just for the door. But here's the top is being held down to the side, right like that. I think it's great. Again, I wouldn't say it's predator proof, but because they're right up next to the house, then I don't really have to worry too much about predators. And the reason I think it's not predator proof is simply because this isn't hardwire, and I think if the right predator was around, it could probably figure out how to get in through the wires. That's all I'm saying. I could wrap it with hardware cloth if I really wanted to, but I don't want to, because I like them to be able, again, this is their water, I like them to be able to put their heads through. It's just more convenient for me, and we don't have an issue with predators. Same with that first cage. I think these 2 cages would not be very good for being predator proof, whereas something like this cage, the hardware cloth is completely surrounding it, and it's completely, there's no way predators can get in through there, except for right here, a snake could probably get in there, and that'd be a bad thing. So that cage was free, and like I said, I've got I had 42 42 birds in there, and I took out 6 males. This is the next cage. We paid, I think $60 for this cage at a chicken swap, and I don't care for this cage at all. I feel like it doesn't have the right room. I've got my feeder and my water squeezed in there, and I just don't care for it. I have 5 birds in here. I've got four females and a male, and I keep this open for ventilation because this is just plastic, which I don't care for. Maybe I should drill some ventilation holes in there. I like that they've got an area where they can have a bit of a dust bath, and that is sand that is in there. And here's the door. It's not very well professionally made. So, I mean, it's fine. It's fine. It's just not my favorite. And again, this one sits on the table, so it doesn't have a bottom. The part where the sand is, there is a bottom to that, but the rest of it does not have a bottom, so it just sits on this tarp on the table. It's probably my least favorite cage, and I wish we hadn't spent money on it. It's just not very functional for my birds, and I feel like they don't have enough room. And let me show you on the inside. There's a little bit of a divider. Well, the food is in the way, but there it is. Just so they can get in and out of the area where the sand is. But because it doesn't have a bottom, the rest of it all becomes sand anyway, I guess. I don't know. And then the last that I have, I'm going to show you. These birds are hopping around a little bit because they spilled their food and they want me to get them some more. But I like these cages, and these are they're really more like parakeet cages. They came from Amazon. My mother-in-law bought them for me when she bought me the eggs for the white quail. And I've got 6 of these cages. I like the way that they fit under the table. See there? And they're also stackable. You only see 5 cages right here because I got my males in one of these cages around the corner. And I think what I like the best about these cages is the fact that there's so many of them. They came 6 of them, I think, for around $100, which is a pretty good deal. But I like that, I've got as many as 8 birds in one cage. A lot of these cages have 7, but I think 1 or 2 cages have 8. But because there's so many cages, I can use one for a hospital, which I've done a few times because, you know, the birds fight or whatever they do and they get injured. What I don't care about is the way that the food and water is set up. It's just not... I need a cover for this because all they do is dump their food out. And it spills everywhere and they dig in it. And more goes to waste, as you can see, the bottom of their cage right there, as well as all over the table. More goes to waste than what they actually eat. And then the water, they drink a lot. And it's just not enough. Like, you know, like that type of water right there, that'll last me those 5 days. I mean, those 5 birds for about 2 days. Whereas this one, I'm refilling like 2 or 3 times a day. So I don't care for that about this cage. And then the other thing I don't care for, the last thing, is that you can't really see it, and I apologize for how messy these cages are because today's Thursday and I clean them on Saturdays. But the last thing is that the floor of the cages were not hardware cloths, and they were wire, but they were too wide of wire, and the birds were injuring their feet. That one's got a knee problem. The birds were injuring their feet, and so we had to take the cage apart just a little bit. It wasn't too much work, and measure and cut some hardware cloth to put in there, but we're not able to remove the other floor, if that makes sense. So there's actually 2 floors on here, and I don't care for that because then their excrement their poop gets stuck in between the two floors. So I can pull out this tray and clean it easy enough, but their poop gets stuck in between the two floors, and sometimes their feet get stuck a little bit as well. So it's not ideal, and I thought at one point I might buy another set because I liked them so well, but because of that issue alone, I think that I wouldn't buy another set. But I do like the cages, like I said, because they're small. They're a little bit taller than they should be, but the birds aren't jumping, so they haven't been injuring their heads. So none of these cages did I build. This one was hand-built, but not by me. None of these cages did I build, and all of them are working for me. They're all different types of cages. This one's probably my favorite, and if I built anything, I built the floor to this, is all that I did. But this is my setup, and this is what works for me, and I'm happy about it. And I hope this gives all of you all a little bit of ideas of how you can do your cages, and maybe learn a little bit from my experiences, and the things that work for me and the things that don't work for me. Alrighty, let me back up just a little bit, and I'll show you the whole of this side of the house. So it definitely keeps them safe from the wind and some of the storms that we get. It gets a little bit hot in the summertime, and they could probably use a fan. However, as long as I keep the cages clean from their excrement, then that takes a little bit of the heat off, because the excrement provides a significant source of heat. So it gets a little bit cooler. Oh, and the last thing I wanted to show you, this middle cage here where I said I built the floor, I also got 2 of these. They're oil drip pans, just like I showed you on this one down here on the bottom. These 2 are also oil drip pans, and I didn't have the right size for the cage, and I thought I could widen it. In any case, it just didn't quite work, and so my husband suggested we just overlap it, and that works just as well also. So anyway, that's my cage setup. Hope this is helpful for you, and that you can make something work for yourself as well that is cost efficient.